And welcome back to Scream With Me. My name is Rusty. This is my horror and music video channel where I talk about my favorite horror movies and my favorite music with my favorite bands. And I think it's time I tackle one of the big ones. So for this review, or my discussion, it's not really a review, but for my discussion and thoughts on this movie, I think we're going to need a bigger boat because we're going to talk about Jaws, the remastered Blu-ray. Lord have mercy. I was only a little child when this came out, so I didn't see it at the theaters or nothing like that. But when it was released on VHS and stuff like that later on, I of course saw it, and I of course never went back into the beach again. Now, as I've told other people, I haven't been in the ocean since I was 14, and yet no matter where I've lived in my life, when I was in Blackpool, it's a seacoast town. Clogan, Ireland is close to the coast, and Panama City Beach which is where I was, also live and born and raised, still in this area, Panama City Beach. I worked as an assistant manager at a place called Alvin's Island for a long time. Tourist, Panama City Beach here is a tourist town, and so we're right on the beach. But I haven't been in the ocean since I was 14. Mostly because of this, but not completely. I was almost killed by a jellyfish when I was 14 years old. We had condos at Pinnacle Port, which is a big condominium complex. My grandmother had condos there, and we were out doing what's called sand dollaring, which is where you hunt for sand dollars, which are these little things you can paint, and you find them in the ocean. I was about chest deep, and a jellyfish wrapped around just above my knee, and I guess it got tangled up because usually they'll just rub up against you or whatever and sting you and stuff like that, but this one got stuck. It's like its tentacles got wrapped around each other or something. Maybe it's the way I moved or whatever, but I definitely took off to the beach to get back to shore, and it stung me very, very badly. Thankfully they knew what to do at the place. When people found out, they got it off of me, and they poured pool chlorine, a big bucket of pool chlorine on it, and by the time the ambulance came, I was okay. I didn't go into anaphylactic shock or anything, and I didn't have to go to hospital. But between Jaws and nearly getting killed by a jellyfish, I decided that the ocean was not really a good place for me to be. And so despite living next to the beach my whole life, I just don't go in the water. I just don't go in the water. So let's talk about this remastered version of Jaws. The documentary on here is phenomenal. I want to say that first. I watched the documentary where they went frame by frame. It's one of the most interesting things on this DVD is that documentary about the remastering of this. Frame by frame of the entire movie, they went and cleaned, corrected, filled in to produce this print. And I of course have all the DVDs of this already, but to get the remastered version and to see the beauty of Blu-ray, I wanted this, and it was certainly worth it. So Jaws was released in 1975, starring Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. So it's not like a lot of people need too much information on this movie. Um, People start being attacked on a beach. The local sheriff is a inlander who has came out and started work. So he's sort of an outsider, and he started working on the beach. And I'll be damned if this doesn't have to happen. So he doesn't know really what to do. He doesn't like the water anyway. And here he has got a killer shark which starts feeding on the people. Now, this being a tourist town, it's the same thing that would happen here where I live. People get desperate, go crazy because it's hurting tourism, so they let a couple of horrible murders happen, killings by the shark. There's the famous slap scene where the mother of the little boy slaps him in front of everybody because they knew. And I didn't really like that a whole lot because we all know who was supposed to be slapped. That stupid mayor, he's the one that's supposed to be slapped. And some of those business owners, not the sheriff. He tried to get somebody to do something and nobody would fucking listen to him. So that was kind of irritating, because he did try. But so then things get really, you get Quinn, Robert Shaw, the great, wonderful Robert Shaw, who says, I'll do it. I'll go kill this shark. And he ends up taking Richard Dreyfuss and Roy Scheider out on the water for this hunt that isn't matched by anything except the movie Orca. And I'm not saying Orca is as good as Jaws, but Orca is the next best thing. They are the two best water movies, and they are very similar in theme. But Jaws and Orca are the only two that can even be compared to each other, in my opinion. Orca's the only one that comes close to Jaws. As you see, I love Orca. But it's got a lot of the same themes and a lot of the same atmosphere, in my opinion. But so you get the long chase scene, the horrific battles, the absolutely devastating Quinn death when Jaws, gets Quinn. And that is a horrible scene. And this was only PG. So this release, if you've got the DVD, that's fine. But be sure to get, if you have an older version, try to find the newest version. Because this remastered version, with the remastered print, with all of the special features and documentaries, is just, it's a classic for a reason. And, everybody knows that. I was very shocked at the fact that this was only PG. It shows how times have changed, But that movie definitely traumatized a lot of people. It set Steven Spielberg, the director, on a path to glory. The behind the scenes look, the making of and the remastering of this movie is worth having this Blu-ray for, because nothing else can do that. And I couldn't believe how bad the print was. For a movie that was so iconic, the print of this movie, the theatrical print, the film, was very, very, very bad. It was in very, and I'm like, this has been one of the biggest movies ever. How was the print not taken care of that well? And it was only by the miracle of technology that they were able to, restore this to pristine day one beauty. And they did. And this movie on a high D monitor and remastered is one of the most beautiful scenes that you've ever seen. Some of the scenes in this movie of the ocean are just phenomenal. And how they were able to do what they did with the shark malfunctioning the way it did all the time and create what Jaws became. And there's plenty of really good shark movies, you know. I love Deep Blue Sea. I love The Shallows. 48 meters, 47 meters down. I always want to call it 48. There's lots of good shark movies, in my opinion, that are watchable, that are fun. But I don't really like Jaws 3 and 4, but I do adore Jaws and Jaws 2. So yeah, one of the big ones, one of the classics, one of the most amazing. There's a lot of extras and special features on this Blu-ray that can make you really be fascinated at what went on behind the scenes and the making of this, because I can watch this, as a lot of movie fans will probably tell you, collectors and stuff like that. I have seen this movie at least 100 times in my lifetime or more. It's just one of those movies that, you know, you can put on at any time and sit back and enjoy. I watched this when it came, the remastered Blu-ray, and I've watched it. I probably watch this at least 2 or 3 times a year. You know, I mean, it goes along. It goes into the rotation of those movies that you watch all the time. This is definitely in my rotation, without a doubt. So, is there anything? That first scene has always been. I was looking at anything else of interest. You know, the boy that played his son is dead, right? The boy that played his oldest son died of a heart attack at only like 38 years old. It was like, I was like really shocked to know that. It was very sad, you know. He never really did anything else but this movie, which I thought was interesting. He was a good little actor, so I don't know why he never did anything else. I guess some people just, they do it, they like it, they have fun, and they're like, well, I've done that, now let's go. I'll go do something else. But and have you ever read the book? The book is phenomenal too. Only thing different about the book and the movie is that in the book there's nothing about that Indianapolis stuff. It's not in the book. It's not in the book because that wasn't known at the time. It was known when the movie was made, but it only had just come out, that news about the story of the Indianapolis that Quinn tells about all the men being eaten by sharks. But Peter Benchley, who wrote the book, he didn't know about that. So it's not in the book. I thought that's a pretty interesting thing. And hearing how much trouble they all had with Robert Shaw, especially Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw. They hated each other, then they loved each other, then they hated each other, then they loved each other. And I think it really shows on the screen how volatile their relationship was in making this movie. So yeah, I think that dynamic, and poor poor Scheider, he probably just had to sit back, you know, and like, oh God, they're at it again, because I think he knew how to deal with Robert Shaw better. He had some cred. I think that was one of the biggest problems between them, is that Robert Shaw didn't consider Richard Dreyfuss as having any real cred, and from what I understand, he felt that, and I can see this, but in the special features, one of the things he says was that Robert Shaw had a issue with Richard Dreyfuss's appearance, that he thought that he looked skanky, nasty, unkempt, and that's true. We're going through a lot of that right now with men, and this fad for the last 2 years of all these men growing these dirty, nasty looking beards and shaving their heads and looking like they just got out of prison, or Skid Row Bones. But according to Richard Dreyfuss, that was a problem. One of the problems that Robert Shaw had with him was he was like, look at yourself, you know, you're pudgy and you look like a, you know, bum. And so I was like, well, who's Robert Shaw? You know, I mean, but he just thought that, I mean, I guess if you look at Robert Shaw, he just looks like a middle-aged guy, but he does look, you know, clean and well kept. And if you look at Richard Dreyfuss in the movie, he does look like a, you know, kind of skanky and unkempt. And he said that Robert Shaw would attack him a lot about, why don't you do some push-ups and get it? Because I say that kind of stuff honestly do. You know, I say, like, shave that shit off your face and grow some hair like a normal person instead of looking like you just got out of prison. What's wrong with you? So, you know, we all have our things, but Robert Shaw was apparently very difficult about his opinions, which I can relate to that as well. I'm not that way about a lot of things, but I can be that way about certain things that really irritate me. I can be rather unyielding in my opinion of them, but that's everybody has something that they do like that. But yes, I definitely wanted to talk about it. I know it's been talked to death, which is why I try to steer more to, I try to steer our little automobile here more to, you know, lesser known stuff, to give it some love, because everybody talks about this. Everybody talks about the big movies. That's why you haven't seen Halloween and Friday the 13th. You will. I will do videos on them. But you haven't seen a lot of the really big ones. Because of that right there, everybody talks about them, you know. So I try to throw the spotlight on lesser known movies, you know. So yeah, Jaws, the remastered edition, especially on Blu-ray, it is so beautiful, and the special features are absolutely wonderful. So if you get a chance, if you don't already have this in your collection, you should really try to find it. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you for listening to me prattle on about yet another movie that I love. And I will see you in the next one here at Scream With Me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.